There is no gray zone when it comes to commitment. Commitment has absolutely no gray zones. My name is Cantey. I am an executive coach and the host of Business Vitality Podcast. And today I just want to take a few minutes and talk around the topic of just commitment. And do people really commit in the maybe zone? Do they just say, maybe I'll try this, maybe I won't? When you're really committed, you can get work done. When you're really committed, the business excels. When you're really committed, relationships work most of the time. So when we are truly into commitment, we're committing whether or not, yes, we're all in, or no, we're not all in. And no is okay. And so today I just wanted to talk about around three ideas around this commitment and whether or not we're fully invested, whether or not we're fully there, to be able to commit and succeed as leaders within the business, as executives within the business. And the first thing I want to start with is be in it for the long term or get out of the way. And we've got to be curious. And so when we think about it, to be in it for the long term or possibly just step out of the way, it's totally fine. We can step out of the way for a little while and then jump back in when we're fully committed again. And what I have found with commitment, with growth, with leadership, with opportunities that come out is we've got to be curious. We've got to be curious along the way. And so what I have found in my career, what I have found talking to other business professionals, successful business professionals, and successful people experience failures, and that's part of it. But what I have found is opportunities come along the way, and they may not look like they're wrapped in a perfect box with a nice looking bow. But there's going to be stuff that's going to come along. There's going to be conversations that you didn't expect. There's going to be phone calls that come to you that maybe don't fit the box that maybe you think you're in right now. And we just need to be curious just a little bit of the time because really, if we're intentional with some of this curiosity, it's going to be easier to make these commitments down the road. It's going to be easier to be intentional down the road. And we've all researched and read about, the post-it notes. And if I had a post-it note around me, I'd share with you. I do. Here's a post-it note right here. So we're familiar with post-it notes and that little silly glue that's on the back. And when we think about it, people had a failure. They had a failure that at 3M they didn't create glue that was really sticky. And they were curious about what do they do with that. And I mean, do any of us live without post-it notes in our life? But we were able to take a failure, be curious about it, commit to it, and figure out a way to be able to kind of grow with it and see where it takes us. And so we get these weird little things that come along to us in life. We get these phone calls, and we're like, I don't know if I really want to answer that call. But when you lean into it and you allow just a little bit of your time to get into that curiosity, just to see where it's going to go, and set it up for a test and set it up to see if that other person is really committed or not before we fully jump in, you might just come across something that's amazing and just a great opportunity to really shift and grow yourself in your career. And what I have found is most good things happen when we just stay curious. And so being committed to the curiosity that comes to us during life, I think that's important. And we can't be in the gray zone. We can't be wish-washy back and forth on whether or not we're going to answer the phone call. We answer the phone call, we don't answer the phone call, and be okay with whatever that answer is. I also want to share that, be in it, like be curious or not. I also want to share that, all these overnight successes that are taking place, they all started 5, 10, 20 years ago. Think about this overnight success. You're like, man, that person, they just got lucky. They didn't get lucky. They worked their tails off in order to create the success that they're experiencing right now. And yes, it may appear that they're lucky. It may appear that, man, they just walked into that one. They sure do know how to pick it. Like everything in their life is just easy and it just falls into place. And it doesn't. If you really dig into a lot of the stuff that creates success, people are just failing very fast and they're getting through it quicker and they're learning from it. And as they're doing that, they're able to create these perceived overnight successes because they're just making decisions faster than everybody else. They're able to reflect upon what it is that they're learning along the way. And when they do that, They're able to create an overnight success, but remember, it took 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 50 years to create it. And so we have to be patient, but we have to commit to the patience and we have to commit to the curiosity along the way. We also need to consider all the small steps that lead up to success. There are countless small steps that lead up to success. And what I have here in our community is an opportunity. I was reached out to co-host a black tie event for a um, a homeless from going from homeless into permanent housing solution in our community. And I said, that sounds nice, but I really need to understand more. And so we broke it down into small steps. And what we did is we visited the site of like, where is this facility? We learned about it. We saw where people were living. These folks were living on the same street that I live on today. I had no idea that this was even taking place. And the small step was to ask a question, to offer the help, to be quiet, and to listen to what other people have to share. I learned what their message was. I saw with my eyes what the best solution was for our community, for homeless, hardworking parents to get back on their feet and to get their kids and their families back into permanent housing. And so I saw it firsthand, and we began to ask questions like, is this the best that we can do for our community? And so we dig into this and we realize, we are doing the best, but can we stretch? Can we just be curious? How far can we take this? And so we now share the story of New Dam Mill in Kershaw County, United Way, and we see this community coming together to support them. They came together to support them through donations. They have a list of donations that are out there, and they also take financial donations. But when you're curious, you find out if you give this charity a donation, their dollar goes a heck of a lot further than anything that I can purchase at a store. It is mind blowing how they can stretch a dollar bill. They know what other donations are coming in. They know how to fill the gap. They already have the established relationships in the community to be able to get reduced or discounted items. And so when I actually got curious and committed to this initiative in our local community, I learned that financial donations, even, just no matter how small they are, it goes so much further than anything that I could even begin to imagine. And so working with these folks and taking the small steps and understanding that they can create 90% success of getting hardworking parents back from homelessness into permanent housing in our local community and getting folks back into the job market, getting them trained back up, making sure the kids are back in school. They got a secure place to be able to sleep with a roof over their head. It's just been fantastic. But it all starts with curiosity, commitment, and the ability to commit to these small pieces of change, these small pieces of opportunities, just phone calls that show up. And sometimes we have to say no to certain things in order to say yes to others. But when we take these small steps, we begin to learn and we begin to find creative ways to solve for problems that may be a lot closer to us than we ever realized. So, my name is Catherine Cantey. I am an executive coach and I'm a podcast host of Business Vitality Podcast. I would love for you, if you have an opportunity, if you're dialing into this, if you can put in the chat where you are listening from, I would love to hear from you. Also, if you have any questions, I would love to be able to answer those. I know a lot of folks listen to the recording after the fact. And so if you want to be able to post in there where you're watching this from, I would love to hear from you. If you're curious about anything that I'm sharing, you can visit my website, catherinecantey.com. Learn more about me if you're interested in trying to figure out, I don't know how to solve for a problem. I have co-creatively solved a number of problems that I can't even begin to itemize out right now. But if you want that co-creative, collaborative brainstorming session, and if I can help, I will. If I can't, I'll point you in the right direction. But if you want to learn more, visit catherinecantey.com. There is a connection request. You can connect with me. You can schedule a call. I just love being able to hear what other opportunities are. I don't necessarily call them problems. I call them opportunities because there may be things out there that we just haven't considered yet. And today we are talking about commitment has no gray zones. Like we're either all in or we're not. The first thing we talked about is either be in for the long term or lovingly get out of the way. We need to either commit to the long term or just, it's okay, but just step out of the way and let the rest of us commit to what we're going to do. And step two that I want to be able to share after either be in it for the long term or get out of the way. The second thing that I want to share with you, if you know anything about me, you know I love the number three, and you know that I'm going to share 3 points behind commitment has no gray zone. And so the second thing I want to share with you is to be able to create boundaries. This has taken me a long time to figure this out. This is something that I use with my coaching and my executive clients, my team coaching events, my workshops. We've got to take care of ourselves before we can take care of other people. We are going to be able to give so much more to other people, to our communities, to those around us if we stop and we put some boundaries around us and what our capabilities are and know that it is okay if we are doing the best that we can and it's still not what you think it's going to be. I think we really overestimate how much we can get done in a day, and we really underestimate what we can get done in a year. With a good intentional plan, with some commitment, with some curiosity, we can dig into this stuff and we can get a lot more done than we realize. But the thing that you've got to do is create boundaries for yourself. And so I'm curious, as I do this with my coaching clients, I just ask them a pretty simple question. How do you take care of yourself? And not only that, but when do you have the energy to serve other people? And most folks that I work with, they have the energy in the morning, and that's totally fine. They have their focus, they have their concentration, it's in the morning. And maybe you need to have a boundary around that because that is when you can get the most creative. You can solve for the most problems. You can stay focused for the longest period of time. You have just the best execution is in the morning. I worked with a gentleman for over a decade, fantastic man, not just a manager and a mentor, but truly a sponsor to me and to my career. And if you don't have sponsors, that alone changes your game. So, just as a side note, make sure you've got the right sponsors in the right places to be able to help you. But what I realized is as I worked with this gentleman, he didn't have his energy until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we all know, I've been in banking for a number of years, a couple decades, and we all know banker hours 9 to 5, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and that's about it. Very traditional, very in the box. He didn't get ready to start working until usually around 4 o'clock. And he'd get that cup of coffee and he'd sit down, and that is when the work got cranky. And so I realized that if I had a good list of projects, because I usually had a good list of projects, and I didn't really ping him a whole lot, but I just kept a list. And I knew when he was going to be back in the office, and I knew to hit him up with that. I also knew that I needed to stick to probably three good topics that I needed to get through. I may have had eight, but I prioritized what are the three most important topics that I need to meet with this manager about. And I needed to realize that I needed to have a drawer full of almonds or granola bars because I was going to be there very late. And that was totally fine. It was just, I knew how he worked. I knew what I needed in order to succeed. And so sometimes we'd sit down at 4 o'clock and we would just start working. And I would have the most important project, the biggest bang for the buck. And that was at the top of the list. And he would teach and he would coach me through the thought process. He'd coach me through the number of proposals that I had no idea that we were going to be doing. But he taught me the fundamentals, and fundamental teaching started at 4 o'clock for this individual. That's when he got his energy. And so I had to adapt to my environment in order to receive the information that I needed to be successful. Little did I know that we were going to be managing a team that was going to put together 300 and 400 proposals a year. Little did I know that these proposals, because we got the fundamentals, we got the foundation right at the beginning, because we could tell the story effectively with financial benefit, with an executable timeline and next steps, a clear call to action. Because we were able to do that, we were able to bring in new business 90% of the time for over a decade. It was fantastic. I did this because I knew he had his best energy at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we would work all night. We did not stop for dinner. That was just his window. He didn't eat dinner until 9 o'clock. We usually would wrap up around 8:30. Like that's just the way it had to work, and that's okay. It wasn't like it was a forever thing. I knew when I needed to get the information. I knew that my time with him, my career with him was going to be limited. It's not forever. And, for a good 10 years, I just knew when the opportunity came, when he had the energy in order for me to get the information I needed in order to grow and to support our customers. So, the question that I now ask a lot of my coaching clients is probably all my coaching clients is how do you take care of yourself? When do you have the energy that you need? That is really a fundamental question for creating the boundaries that you need. If you know that you need exercise in order to have that mental stability for the day, in order to have that inner peace, I would hope that the exercise takes place in the morning because it's kind of like Brian Tracy's book called Eat That Frog. If you could just get the hard stuff done early, not a whole lot of us are super excited to come home at the end of the day to cook dinner, then to put on tennis shoes and exercise clothes to go lift weights. But if we can knock it out first thing in the morning because we know that we need that boundary to take care of ourselves, then we need to put these things in place. We need to commit. We need to take care of ourselves by having these boundaries to take care of our energy in order to serve other people. A lot of us have been on airplanes. I was on an airplane and sitting in the car for 60% of my time for pretty much the bulk of my career. I was just out and serving other people first. And so part of that is you sit on the airplane and the flight attendant talks about the mask that comes down. You've got to put your mask on first before you can help other people. And that same thing applies when you're in the office, when you're on the road, when you're taking care of other people, when you're taking care of your family. You've got to take care of yourself first in order to serve others second. So when you create boundaries, you're able to take care of yourself. And on a recent coaching call, I was talking with a client and they said they've got a summer vacation lined up. And I said, how many, vacations do you have for the year? And they were like, I just kind of used to pick a few vacations a year and that was it. And we never really planned it, but it was just out there. And, every couple months we'd book something. He said, now I'm very intentional. And he says it creates a good amount of peace at home, knowing that they've got 2 or 3 vacations booked in advance. The family knows when the vacation is. And this coaching individual actually said, and what would be really nice is if I could have just time by myself. And I said, well, what if you take a vacation for yourself without the family, without the friends, without the drama, the baggage, anything? What if you just take a vacation? And it was just kind of like, I haven't thought about it, but boy, that sure would be nice. And I'm coaching some other folks that the guys they're fly fishing. They're like, I know where to go. I got the equipment and I just go down there for a couple days on the river and I fly fish. And I feel awesome. And when I come back, I am recharged and refueled and I can come back and do more work than I could have done before if I just kept staying in the office. So ask yourself, what do you need to do to take care of yourself? What are your boundaries? What are your vacations like? Do you need to take a vacation by yourself? I mean, I'll be honest, I took one this weekend for myself. It was fantastic. I love it. Probably a year ago, I would have thought that that was the craziest thing in the world. But I tried it for the first time 6 months ago and I thought, oh, we need to do this again. So, figure out what you want to do. And that seems to be the biggest question when we stop and ask, what do you want? What do you want out of this life? That's the hardest question. And it's okay if we change our mind along the way. So, as we talk about commitment, there is no gray zone. We're either on a vacation or we're not. We're either in it for the long term or we're not. We either have boundaries or we don't. I want to talk a little bit more about this, but first, if you're just joining, my name is Catherine Cantey. I'm an executive coach and I'm also a podcast host of Business Vitality. For over 20 years, I've worked with corporations, big companies, think $300 billion institutions, and small companies, nonprofits, everything in between. Great thing about being in banking is money opens up doors to pretty much everything. And so I've been exposed to a lot of different industries. They have put me on the front line. I have been plenty times in tractors and equipment that's out on the farm. I've also ridden in the pickup trucks and understood the pains of what was going on in the field. I've sat in the boardrooms and listened to what the strategy and like the vision and how are we going to get there. And I've spent way too much time in operation centers and back rooms to really understand what are our capacity in order to support the strategic vision and what is our capacity to support the people that are on the front line that need our services and like how do we close that gap. And what I have found over the past 20 plus years is there are some very practical applications that allow businesses to remain vital. Sometimes we don't need to recreate the wheel. Sometimes we just got to get back into the fundamentals. Sometimes we just got to get back down to business basics. Those business basics, when you talk to the C suite executives, when you talk with the boardroom, they're getting into the fundamentals. They know what they do, they know how to deliver. And I know over the past 20 years of seeing it firsthand, it's just vital. It is vital that people and businesses continue to do certain things. And sometimes it just boils down into practical applications. So when I had to come up with a term for how in the world do I try to, encompass 20 years of experience having all these different exposures, and I came up with a term and I call it business vitality. And when I think about how I was able to go into a number of roles throughout my career, the first thing that I did was really understand what was going on. And I got down to the business basics, like what is it that we're here to do? And so when I work with my clients today, I take into consideration what is the opportunity with the leader that I'm working with. What is, the business purpose? What's problems are we solving? And then also the strategy of the boardroom, like what are our capacities? What is our vision? And we bring it all together. We can talk about what is the vital thing that we need to do as a business. And so the podcast Business Vitality talks about business best practices. What are people doing? What are they succeeding with? What are the lessons learned along the way? Some of the best lessons that we can take are from the mistakes that we've made over time. If we're intentional with it, if we commit to learning from our mistakes, we're just going to accelerate faster. We're going to be an overnight success quicker if we can be able to learn from these opportunities that come to us. So that's a little bit about business vitality. If you're wondering why in the world is she even doing this, the only reason I'm doing this is quite simple. People poured into me. They poured into me in my corporate career, and I'm forever grateful. I cannot give back to them because they are now retired. What I want to do going forward is to pour into other people the same way that people poured into me. I am forever grateful for them, and I want to be able to pay it forward. I think it's important to be able to pay it forward, whether it's locally within our community. I think it's important to pay it forward wherever the phone may ring. There may be an opportunity across the country, and if there's a way for me to continue to support others, that's what I'm here to do, because this is my way of returning the favor of those that gave to me. So, in case you're just joining, my name is Catherine Cantey. I would love for you to be able to put in the comments section where you're watching this from. I appreciate you being here. And if any of this stuff is hitting home, you want to talk more about it, visit my website, catherinecantey.com. And there's a link at the top where you can actually schedule a call if you want to dig into this. If you want to just keep learning, you can go to catherinecantey.com. Very bottom of the page, it has resources. It'll take you to a whole resource page. You can learn more about the work that I'm doing there. The podcast episodes are there as well. You can also find them on Apple and Spotify and all the good places that are out there. But if you just want to dig into resources, check those out. If you want to schedule a call and just kind of explain, hey, this is what I'm seeing. I don't even know if there's an opportunity. Schedule a call. We'll talk about it. A lot of times people reach out and they're like, Catherine, I don't know if you can help me, but can you listen? And a lot of folks have told me that I'm a pretty good listener, and I love to be able to listen to opportunities, and I love to be able to connect the dots. So if those are some superpowers, I definitely have those, and I would love to hear from you about the opportunities that you have, and maybe we can connect some dots and be able to create some success off of, I'm sure, some momentum that you have already created. So today, my name is Catherine Cantey. I'm an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. We are talking about commitment has no gray zone. We are either fully in or fully not, and it is okay if we're not. So far, we've talked about either be in it for the long term or get out of the way, lovingly get out of the way. The second thing we talked about is creating boundaries and how important it is to create boundaries for ourselves. The third thing that I want to talk about is either yes or no. You're either in or you're out. When it comes to commitment, there just is no gray zone. You're either fully committed or you're not. And when you're not fully committed and you think other people don't notice, I have to tell you, they do. They notice. The managers are calling me and they're telling me, hey, Joe doesn't really look like he's committed, but he says he is, but his actions don't reconcile with what he's saying. Can you work with him? And so I'm like, sure, let's talk to him and let's figure this out and let's figure out an action plan and just jump into it and see how committed they are. And so I just want to reiterate, there is no maybe, there is no covering it up. The people that work with you, they know you. They know you better than you probably know yourself at time. If you think about it, think how much time you spend with them and they with you. And they're watching the behaviors that you have and they're seeing if what you're doing is reconciling with what you're saying. So you've either got to be, yes, I'm fully committed, or no, I'm not. And if you're not, I want you to know that no, I'm not committed. No, no is a complete sentence. No, period. That's okay. Like, that's okay. No is all right. You can say no. When you say no to lots of different things, you get to be good at just a few good ones. And the best, they know what they're good at and they stick with that. So think about it. Think about sports, think about athletes. They're not really in or out. They're not really sure what they're going to do. They're not really, texting on the bench and watching people dribble the ball. They're committed. They're in. They're not doing anything else. They're not multitasking and bragging about how they can multitask. They're single tasking. They're focused. They are fully committed. There is no gray zone for a professional athlete. And if they're in a gray zone, they're not going to be a professional athlete for much longer. So just think about yes or no, in or out. Commitment is as easy as that. And if you think about, you want to get feedback on your job, feedback on your performance. Do you really want to hear, oh, I don't know, just keep doing what you're doing? No, you really want to have constructive, you want to have feed forward, future focused information and the whole nother conversation around future focused stuff. But think about when we give feedback to other people around us, when we receive feedback, we want to have more than a keep doing what you're doing. We want to be able to commit to providing the information they need to succeed at their position. So as we think about this, yes or no, and commitment, there's no gray zone with commitment. If you're truly committed, you're either in or you're not. That's okay, one way or the other. When we work with our coaching clients, we use stakeholder center coaching. It was established by Marshall Goldsmith and his two other co-founders, Chris Coffey and Frank Wagner, fantastic gentlemen. They've been very supportive with me over the years as I've quickly became a master executive coach using their framework. What I like about it, it is measured leadership change. That's what they're creating. And I was able to learn from them some very practical applications. Working with my clients today, I work with teams and I work with individuals, and we use practical applications to deliver results. Because we're able to do this in a very systematic, intentional, committed way, we can accelerate the impact, we can accelerate the results. And part of this work with stakeholder center coaching is asking, have you seen improvement in my leadership behavior? Yes or no? In the beginning, my clients love to come back to me and they like to test the waters like most new clients do. But they'll come back and they'll say, well, they didn't say yes, they didn't say no. I said, I really need you to make a commitment. Did they or didn't they? Well, they didn't really say yes, they saw commitment, but they didn't say no. I said, well, if they didn't say yes, then that's a no. So circle it. So what we're doing is we're creating some recognition. We're creating good or bad recognition. Recognition's recognition. We're creating yes or no. Do they see improvement? Because when we ask this question consistently, we can change our behavior and we can change the perception of our behavior at the same time because we're bringing people with us. We're not living in a box and we're not sharing information. We're sharing our courage and humility and discipline of being able to say, hey, I'm a pretty good leader, but I want to get a little bit better. And when they do that and we ask these questions, hey, have you noticed improvement with my leadership behavior? It's either yes or it's no. Over time, if they follow this process, if they're committed, if they're intentional, they get yeses and they gain the recognition that they work hard for. And this stuff is not going to be instant overnight success. Most success takes a period of time, and that's okay. So, as we think about True commitment. True commitment does not sit in a gray zone. True commitment is no gray zone at all. It is either yes or it's no. It's in or it's out. There is no in between. And we can apply that. I like to think of it in three different ways as I kind of brainstorm about different coaching opportunities that have come along in the recent weeks. That when it comes to commitment, there's three different things to think about. The first one is be in it for the long term because commitment takes a long term commitment. You got to be in it for the long term or get out of the way. We're totally fine with that. It's a choice. You get to choose. The second thing is create boundaries. What are your boundaries? How do you protect yourself? How do you take care of yourself? The third thing is just say yes or no. Say you're in or you're out, and that's totally fine. Figure out what works for you. But I do know that if you say no enough, the things you say yes to, you're going to get really good at. The things that you stay curious with, you're going to get really good at. And that's where the growth and the opportunity and the curiosity comes from. My name is Catherine Cantey. I'm an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. If any of this stuff sounds interesting, you want to dig into it some more, please visit my website, catherinecantey.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you're just kind of curious about some of the resources I have available, you can find them at catherinecantey.com/resources. Or if you want to book a call, feel free. A lot of folks, they come to me and they're like, I don't know if you can help me, Catherine, but let me tell you what I got going on. They share what they have going on. We usually co-create, a couple, 1, 2, 3 steps of what they can do as a result of it's just a complimentary phone call. But, we can share some steps of like next steps of what to do. I love to be able to co-create solutions with others. Sometimes you just need an outside opinion, and if that's what you're looking for, book a call. Let me know what you got. And there's some crazy stuff, crazy opportunities that are out there. If you need help solving them, let me know. I do work with teams and individuals to create measured leadership change. We do that using practical applications, mostly around the framework of stakeholder centered coaching. Because we do that, we can change the leaders behavior, we can change the perception of the leader's behavior in parallel. When we do it in parallel, we're able to accelerate the results. We're able to create measurement. The measurement is defined by the people around the leader, not necessarily me, not necessarily the leader themselves. And these folks that are doing this is not just for anybody. The folks that are doing this, that are creating the results, which there's 95% success in the industry for this particular coaching. Our clients have created 100% measured success. So I'm very excited for the hard work that they are doing. But again, this isn't for just anybody. You've got to have the courage, you got to have the discipline, you got to have the humility to be able to do this kind of work. And if that sounds like somebody on your team and you're wanting to grow them just a little bit further, and like most CEOs and C-suite leaders, they just don't have any more time. HR professionals, they hear the stories of, yeah, this person is fantastic. I just don't have any more time. Like, I need to travel and I've got to be able to do X, Y, Z. I just need somebody else to get this leader up to speed. I am your person that can help you do that. I have a number of teams that I'm working with. I have a number of individuals I'm working with. And if you're curious and you want to learn more, reach out to me, catherinecantey.com. You can reach out also on LinkedIn, and I would love to hear from you. Again, my name is Catherine Cantey. I am an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.